16 years old, one touch, one strike, and Anfield was on its feet. A boy from East London with Nigerian roots and immigrant dreams instantly became Liverpool's newest obsession.
The finish, you're thinking, honestly, it was a finish of a 28-year-old in his peak and his prime who had been around for years.
What a finish this was, and like I said before, the fact that he attacked the service told me that he was about to put this in the back of the net.
He'd only been on the pitch less than 5 minutes. Last week in the UK, he was picking up his exam results, and a week later, he's scoring the winner in the 101st minute at St James's Park.
But how does a teenager carry the hopes of a club, a city, and a nation? This is the complete story of Rio Ngumoha's rise. But how does a boy from the concrete streets of Newham become the player that has 50,000 Liverpool fans chanting his name after just one appearance? To understand that, we have to go back to where it all began, with two Nigerian immigrants who crossed continents carrying nothing but hope and an unshakable belief in their family's future. Mr. and Mrs. Ngumoha arrived in London with the same dreams that fuel millions of immigrants worldwide, the chance to give their children opportunities they never had. Rio's father had spent time in the bustling streets of Lagos before making the life-changing decision to relocate to England. His mother brought her own heritage from Guadeloupe, creating a rich cultural tapestry that would shape young Rio's identity. But this wasn't a story of wealth or privilege. Like countless immigrant families, the Ngumohas faced the harsh realities of starting over in a foreign land. They settled in East London, where every pound mattered and every sacrifice was calculated around their children's future. The couple understood that in England, football could be more than just a game. It could be a passport to a better life. On August 29, 2008, in the borough of Newham, East London, Rio Ngumoha entered the world. But this wasn't just any corner of London. This was a place where dreams and reality collided daily, where concrete playgrounds birthed some of England's most talented footballers, and where immigrant families like the Ngumohas came to rewrite their stories. There was something in the air here, a hunger, a determination that seemed to seep from the tower blocks and council estates into the hearts of young boys who kicked footballs against brick walls until the streetlights came on. From the moment Rio could walk, his parents recognized something special. While other toddlers stumbled and fell, Rio seemed to glide with the ball at his feet. The Nigerian heritage that flowed through Rio's veins carried with it a footballing tradition. Nigeria had produced legends like J.J. Okocha, Kanu Nwankwo, and Mikel Obi, players who had conquered European football with flair, technique, and an unbreakable spirit. The Ngumohas spoke to young Rio about this legacy, instilling in him the pride of representing not just himself, but his family's journey and his ancestors' dream. The local parks of Newham became Rio's first stadium. While his parents worked tirelessly to establish themselves in their new country, young Rio would spend hours on the worn grass pitches, joining pickup games with boys twice his age. The older kids initially laughed at the small Nigerian boy who barely reached their shoulders, but their laughter quickly turned to amazement as Rio weaved between them with a natural grace that couldn't be taught. By age 5, Rio had already become a local legend in Newham's youth football circles. Coaches from amateur clubs would watch in disbelief as this tiny boy with the bright smile and lightning-quick feet embarrassed players who had been playing organized football for years. Word began to spread. There was something special happening in East London, but Rio's parents knew that raw talent in the parks of Newham was just the beginning. If their son was gonna make it, he needed proper coaching, proper facilities, and proper competition. The question was, which club would be brave enough to take a chance on an 8-year-old boy whose talent was matched only by his family's unwavering determination? In 2016, when Rio Ngumoha was just 8 years old, one of the most prestigious football academies in the world came knocking. Chelsea Football Club, with their state-of-the-art training facilities in Cobham and a reputation for developing world-class talent, had spotted something extraordinary in the boy from Newham. This wasn't just any football club. This was the academy that had produced Mason Mount, Reece James, and Callum Hudson-Odoi, a place where dreams were either realized or shattered, where only the most exceptional young talent survived the intense competition and relentless pursuit of perfection. The day Rio walked through the gates of Chelsea's academy, he wasn't intimidated by the grandeur or the reputation. While other 8-year-olds might have been overwhelmed by the professional setup, the immaculate pitches, and the coaches who had worked with Premier League superstars, Rio simply saw it as a bigger playground. His natural confidence and infectious smile immediately endeared him to coaches and teammates alike. From his very first training session, it was clear that Chelsea had discovered something special. Youth coaches who had worked with hundreds of talented youngsters over the years found themselves stopping mid-drill to watch Rio work his magic. His close control was mesmerizing, his vision beyond his years, and his ability to glide past defenders in tight spaces left seasoned academy coaches shaking their heads in amazement. As Rio progressed through Chelsea's youth ranks, his reputation grew. He wasn't just another promising academy player, he was the player other academies feared facing. Weekend after weekend, Rio would terrorize opposition defenses with a style of play that was both devastating and beautiful to watch. He combined blistering pace with the kind of tight-space dribbling that made defenders look like they were running through quicksand. The years flew by, and with each passing season, Rio's star burned brighter. By the time he reached the U16 level, he had become Chelsea's crown jewel, their most prized academy prospect. In 2024, his exceptional performances earned him the ultimate recognition, Chelsea U16 Player of the Season. For a club with such a rich history of youth development, this wasn't just an award, it was a statement. Rio Ngumoha was destined for greatness. But sometimes even the most perfect dreams come with unexpected plot twists, and for Rio, the biggest decision of his young life was just around the corner. Sometimes, the smallest conversations can change the trajectory of an entire career. For Rio Ngumoha, that life-altering moment came from an unexpected source, a former Liverpool prodigy who knew exactly what it felt like to be a teenage wonderkid carrying the weight of enormous expectations. Raheem Sterling had walked the path that Rio was just beginning to navigate. From his breakthrough at Liverpool as a teenager to his conquering of the Premier League with Manchester City and eventually finding his way to Chelsea, Sterling understood the unique pressures that came with being labeled as the next big thing in English football.
Raheem Sterling, I remember one time he brought me to the side and he was just like, when you lose the ball, just make sure you're always in the game, because at our level, like, everything goes fast paced. So you just have to always be on it, and then you can do a little bit.
Rio absorbed every word. Here was someone who had faced the same scrutiny, the same expectations, the same pressure to perform that came with being a young English talent with the world watching. Sterling had navigated the treacherous waters of Premier League football as a teenager and emerged stronger, wiser, and more successful. But Sterling's words carried an additional layer of meaning that wouldn't become apparent until later. He was a player who had thrived at Liverpool, who understood the unique culture at Anfield, the way the club nurtured young talent, and the pathway from academy prospect to first-team regular that existed on Merseyside. Those words became fuel for Rio, inspiration that reminded him someone who had walked this exact path believed in his potential. That moment of recognition, that transfer of knowledge from one generation to the next, lit a fire in Rio's heart. It planted a seed of belief that he could follow in those same footsteps, and maybe, just maybe, even surpass them. In September 2024, the football world was stunned by news that seemed almost impossible to believe. Rio Ngumoha, Chelsea's U16 Player of the Season and their most prized academy prospect, was leaving Stamford Bridge. Not for Real Madrid or Barcelona, not for a life-changing financial package, but for Liverpool, a club that had identified something in the 16-year-old that even Chelsea hadn't fully grasped. This wasn't just any transfer, this was a statement that sent shockwaves through English football's academy system. Chelsea had invested 8 years in Rio's development, watching him grow from that 8-year-old boy from Newham into their brightest teenage star. They had offered him a new contract, desperate to keep their crown jewel from slipping away. After all, this was the player who had just been named their U16 Player of the Season. You don't let talent like that walk out the door without a fight. But Liverpool had done something different. They hadn't just seen Rio as another talented teenager to add to their academy ranks. They had seen him as a player who could fast track to their first team, someone who embodied the fearless attacking philosophy that had made them European champions. This wasn't a long-term project. This was a smart, forward-thinking move that prioritized potential over big-name hype. For Rio, the decision wasn't about money or facilities. Chelsea had those in abundance. It wasn't about prestige either. Stamford Bridge had plenty of that. It was about something far more valuable: opportunity. At Liverpool, Rio saw a clear pathway from academy to first team, a club culture that trusted young players with real responsibility, and a manager in Arne Slot who wasn't afraid to gamble on youth. The move represented everything that made Liverpool special. While other clubs hoarded young talent in their academies for years, Liverpool had a track record of giving teenagers genuine chances. From Raheem Sterling to Trent Alexander-Arnold, from Curtis Jones to Harvey Elliott, Anfield had become a breeding ground for young English talent who weren't content to wait their turn. But this gamble worked both ways. Liverpool were taking a massive risk on a player who had never kicked a ball in professional football, betting that their judgment was better than one of the most successful academies in world football. For Rio, he was leaving the security of the only professional club he had ever known to chase something that might never materialize. The football world held its breath. Had Liverpool just pulled off one of the smartest academy signings in recent memory, or had Chelsea allowed their biggest prospect to slip through their fingers based on empty promises? Within months, the answer would become crystal clear to everyone watching. The gamble was about to pay off in ways that even Liverpool's most optimistic scouts couldn't have imagined. But first, Rio had to prove that he belonged on the same pitch as seasoned professionals who had been playing at the highest level for years. Then came the moment that truly announced Rio Ngumoha to the world. In January 2025, at just 16 years and 135 days old, he became the youngest player ever to appear for Liverpool in an FA Cup match, starting against Accrington Stanley. That record was previously held by legends of the game. Now it belonged to the boy from Newham. After that announcement, in another friendly game a few months later, it only took 2 minutes. That's all Rio Ngumoha needed to turn his unofficial debut at Anfield into something unforgettable. In a friendly against Athletic Bilbao, the 16-year-old lit up the pitch in front of over 50,000 Liverpool fans with a moment of pure magic. Cool, bold, and breathtaking. Receiving the ball in a sea of defenders, Rio weaved through traffic with the poise of a seasoned pro, then curled a pinpoint strike into the far corner with his right foot. Moments later, he did it again, this time setting up Darwin Núñez with a perfectly timed assist to make it 2-0. It was effortless, it was fearless, it was electric. From the first touch to the final whistle, Ngumoha played like he belonged. No nerves, no missteps, just pure confident football in Liverpool red. By the time he came off in the 67th minute, the youngster had already exceeded every expectation. And then came something even rarer. During halftime, a new chant rang out from the stand. Liverpool fans already singing his name after just one appearance. That's not just praise, that's the kind of love players spend their whole careers chasing. But Rio wasn't finished rewriting history book. On the club's preseason tour of Asia, he scored an 87th minute stunner against Yokohama Marinos in a 3-1 victory, a solo masterpiece that lit up social media and left both fans and pundits in awe. But even that wasn't enough. Aged 16 years and 361 days, Ngumoha became Liverpool's youngest ever goal scorer and the 4th youngest across all clubs in the Premier League era. Only Wayne Rooney had achieved something similar at that age, scoring a winning goal as a 16-year-old. The goal even surpassed Darwin Núñez's winning goal against Nottingham Forest by a minute to become the club's latest game-winning goal against Newcastle in the Premier League. The numbers were staggering, but they only told part of the story. Rio wasn't just breaking records, he was doing it with a style that made veteran defenders look helpless and had journalists scrambling for comparisons to the game's greatest talent. So here's the question everyone's beginning to ask. Is Liverpool nurturing their own version of Lamine Yamal? It's not just a lazy comparison thrown around by journalists desperate for headlines. It speaks to a broader truth about a generation of prodigies redefining what youth means in modern football. Lamine Yamal stunned the world by becoming a key figure for both Barcelona and the Spanish national team before even turning 17. He scored in the Champions League, dazzled at Euro 2024, and played with the composure of a veteran who had been doing it for decades. Most remarkably, he did it all while maintaining the fearless joy that made him special in the first place. Rio Ngumoha, with just a handful of friendlies and a few record-breaking appearances under the Anfield lights, is already planting the seeds of a similar narrative. He's only 16, yet his game is mature, spontaneous, and joyful, marked by razor-sharp decision-making and the ability to dance through tight spaces with an ease that leaves experienced defenders questioning everything they thought they knew about defending. defending. What links these two young stars more than anything is their fearlessness. They don't step onto the big stage just to survive. They step onto it to own it. For Yamal, it was El Clasico. It was the Euros. It was the Champions League. For Newham, it may have started with friendlies, but those first few steps in a Liverpool shirt already carried the aura of someone destined for far greater stages. The similarities in their playing styles are impossible to ignore. Both possess that rare combination of blistering pace and tight-spaced dribbling that makes them virtually unplayable in one-on-one situation. Rio averages between 10 to 13 dribbles per game with an exceptional success rate, consistently delivering goals and assists at youth level. Like Yamal, he doesn't just beat his man, he does it with a flourish that makes you rewind the footage just to see it again. Journalists have already begun comparing Rio to Jamal Musiala as well, not just for the elegance and fluidity, but for his ability to unlock a game with a single move. But perhaps the most telling comparison is the one that matters most: their mentality. Neither Yamal nor Newham seems burdened by expectations or overwhelmed by the spotlight. They play with the kind of freedom that can only come from absolute confidence in their own abilities. In an age where English football is often criticized for producing too many tactical robots, Rio represents something different, a breath of fresh air that dares to be different. He's the kind of player who makes you stop scrolling through your phone and actually watch the screen, the type of talent that reminds you why you fell in love with football in the first place. As the 2025-26 season dawns, marking the beginning of a new era under Arne Slot, all eyes are gradually turning toward Rio Newham. Of course, no one's pretending the road ahead will be easy. The Premier League is unforgiving, full of defenders who have made careers out of stopping players exactly like Rio, but the courage and composure he's shown have sparked a genuine question. Does Slot have the bravery to double down on youth? The pathway is there. Tournaments like the FA Cup and EFL Cup could be the perfect proving ground. Not meaningless fixtures, but real tests of temperament and pressure. And if Rio performs, don't be surprised to see his name on Premier League team sheets, not just as a bench warmer, but as a game changer. People said something similar about Lamine Yamal at Barcelona. They said if he develops right, he could be the future of an entire nation. The same could be said for Rio. Now, wearing the famous red of Liverpool, his rise is no longer just about Merseyside. It could very well be the beginning of something far greater for England, a national team that desperately needs players with natural flair, who dare to dribble, who dare to be different. Rio has already made his mark for England at youth levels, representing the U15s, U16s, and most recently the U17s in October 2024. Each appearance has been a statement, a reminder that English football's future might be in very capable hands. If Arne Slot is looking for a symbol of the future, Rio might just be his boldest and most inspiring gamble. Because Rio Newham isn't just a name that rolls off the tongue, he's the embodiment of a new generation. Fearless, creative, and hungry to leave a mark. No one can predict the future. But one thing is clear: if Rio keeps his head, resists the temptations, and continues to sharpen his tools in the fierce cauldron of Liverpool's competitive culture, he has every chance of becoming more than just a fan favorite. He could become the next Anfield icon, and more than that, he could be a pillar of English football's next golden age. In a time when names like Jude Bellingham and Lamine Yamal are redefining what young and world-class truly means, Rio Newham is quietly writing his own first chapter. Who knows? In a few years' time, the chants of Rio ringing through the Kop might not just be cheers for a Wonderkid, they might be the anthem of a generation. If you enjoyed this incredible journey through Rio Newham's rise from Chelsea's academy to Liverpool's record books, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more untold stories from the beautiful game. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another documentary about football's most fascinating young stars. What do you think will happen next in Rio's career? Let us know in the comments below.